Oftentimes we go through life not wanting to think about death. But it must be known that death is a consequence of living. It's something that we all must face. Now, what will be said when you take your dying breath? What would your family and friends say at your funeral, at your eulogy? What will be your legacy? What would you leave behind? Oftentimes we want to live as though we're not going to die. But see, the thing is, the reality is that one day you're going to take your last breath. And if we realize that, we'll start to live a little differently. You see, on September 6th of 2017, our islands in the British Virgin Islands were hit with the most powerful storm that ever struck the Atlantic, Hurricane Irma. And that, at that moment, I was faced with an end, a possible death. You see, around 10:15, 5 of my family members and I, my wife, my daughter who's 8, my twins who are 3 years old, were faced and huddled in a room. And as the winds began to pick up, we heard a wall that fell down. We had to crawl from that wall and run upstairs to our parents. As we gathered there now with 9 of our family members, the roof began to shake, the walls began to break, the glass began to make noise. And at that moment, the sound and the pressure started to break your ears. At that moment, we realized that we had to run for cover. As things began to break, and I heard a sound that I will never want to relive again. The sound of a roof, your protection being ripped from over your head. As I heard that sound, I looked at my dad and said, we have to go. As we began to run downstairs, as we passed my room where my mom had embarrassing pictures of me still, that roof went. And as that roof went, I had to grab my 2.5-year-old twin daughter from being sucked out with the wind. As we gathered and held each one tightly, we ran to a room that was only 6 feet by 4. 10 of us now trapped in a room. My dad and I braced our backs against the wall, hoping just to keep the outside from coming in and taking our lives. But as minutes passed, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and water began to fill up in this room, we realized that our end was possibly near. The door to escape was swollen shut as the other side was flooded. As I looked around to the eyes of my family members, I realized that this could be our possible end. At that moment, as my family members cried, as we were running out of air, as we heard the screams through the wind of our neighbors running for cover, I realized that I was trapped in this room and I could possibly die. And I was like, if I was to get out of this room, if I was given another chance at life, how would I continue to live? How would I live? But interestingly enough, I got that thought because I did not want to die on a Wednesday. Yes, I wanted a more glamorous day like a Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But in all seriousness, if I got a chance to get out of this room, I would live as though I would die at any time. So at that moment, I said there was a couple things I was going to do. The first thing, if I was able to escape out of that room, I would live on purpose. You see, the thing is, we go through life sometimes and we never want to imagine. We just go through willy-nilly, thinking we'll just take life as it comes. But as you think about living as if you're going to die and knowing that today is not promised, and tomorrow isn't either. You will start to live on purpose. You will look inside and start to see that there's something so important, so passionate, that you must go forward. That your purpose in life cannot be limited to just a job. Your purpose in life can't be limited to just a passion. It has to be something that's greater, that makes a difference. So I was huddled in that room. I decided I'm going to continue to live on purpose. I'm going to make every second count. And I said, if I was able to get out of this room, the second thing I would do once I've realized this purpose, that I will visualize it often. Yes. See, what happens when you go through life, you might have a dream, you might have a purpose, but you don't visualize it. You don't allow what is in your mind to become palatable, to become real. So the things of life, you start to lose it. You become distracted, been bogged down, so you lose the vision of what you could possibly become. I challenge you, as I was in that room, stuck in water with my family members, running out of air and thinking that I was going to die, I stopped and thought of my life outside of this room, outside of those four walls, trapped. I imagine living on purpose, helping people, changing lives, bringing hope to people on a level that I've never done before. I visualized it to the point that it became real, and it transformed my current circumstance. It allowed me to become encouraged. So as my family members, as we stuck there in that room, 30 minutes now passed, my brother said, we should say a prayer. And at that moment, we prayed, and we prepared to death for dying. And I was like, you know what? If that happens, well, at least I died with the people I loved. And my niece started to sing a song, and her angelic voice pierced through the winds and the howling rain. And at that moment, I said, if I was going to die, there was one more thing that I was going to do. If you're going to live with the end in mind, as I was in that room, I reminded that you should push. Yes, you should push. Now that's important to remember, because as the days and passed after Hurricane Irma, I imagine realizing with families and talking to people who have hurt. Since post-Hurricane Irma, I've been able, as a psychologist, to help hundreds of families deal with the trauma and depression. I've seen the looks on people's faces that have lost family members and been able to help them through. I've seen people who have lost every physical thing in their life, every material thing. Lost their jobs, and I've seen them have to muster all their strength. They know that death is real. They've realized and felt that death was near. But what they've taught me, and now I want to share with you, is that they have realized that no matter what life throws at you, you have to push. Now, I learned that from the people that I was able to serve, but I also learned that myself. See, the thing is, as I was in that room, as I was stuck waiting to die, I was like, I visualized something else other than dying in this room. I visualized my life being an impact. So I decided to push. As I handed my daughter and my kids to my wife and brother, and there was 6 inches between me and the swollen door shut that was flooded on the other side, I said, at least if I'm going to die, if this is how my end will be, I am going to push. So that's what I did. I started to bang my shoulder against this door repeatedly, over and over. 1 minute, 2 minutes, until my shoulder lost feeling. And then my brother became, and he started to help me push. And after us trying and thinking that it was over, we were able to break through. And our family was able to escape. And that's why I think pushing is so important. Regardless of the obstacles that come your way, regardless of how difficult it may be in your life, regardless of how deep your depression or your post-traumatic stress disorder or your anxiety or your finances or your bills, regardless of how hard life hits you, regardless of how you feel like you may want to give up, one thing with living with the end in mind, before you take your dying breath, you need to make sure that you're pushing with all that you have, so that your life, when it's your dying breath and your family and friends read your eulogy, the one thing that will always be able to stand out is that you pushed your way through life, obstacles, and you were inspiration. You lived on purpose, you visualized your dream, and regardless of what came your way, you pushed through.